Good evening, and thank you for joining me. Tonight's message I've entitled Area of Development. Have you ever felt inadequate? Inadequate for a job or a task? Have you ever felt like you didn't measure up? Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough? This Sunday's message was on the process of growth. We all have areas of strengths and weaknesses. In some areas we might excel in. Each one of us have different gifts and talents. Can you identify what some of your strengths are? Do you have perceived weaknesses? What if God called you and challenged you to an area of development, to a place of challenge and uncomfortability, to an arena where you were called upon to use a perceived weakness for the advancement of God's kingdom and for His glory? What if God calls us and challenges us and takes us through the process of growth and into the area of development, calling us to utilize and develop our weakness and not our strength, knowing that because we are called upon to use what may cause us uncertainty and difficulty, we would turn to Him for strength and guidance and help. The Lord said to the Apostle Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness." Which prompts the Apostle Paul to reply, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." How could Apostle Paul say this about delighting in weaknesses and difficulties? He recognized an important fact for us to understand and for us to get, that Christ's power works in and through our weaknesses. What do we do when we are challenged? Do we accept it head on? Are we up for the challenge? To be placed in an area of uncertainty and uncomfortability, to go through the process of growth and enter the area of development. Moses, when he was called, wasn't so sure he was ready for the job, for this task and assignment that God had for him, the call that God had placed on his life. Moses began to doubt and have reservations. He began to live in the future, playing out scenarios in his mind. He began conjuring up images of what the people might do who he interacted with. He begins thinking of how they will be and how they will respond and receive him. Will the people, his own people, the Hebrews, respond favorably to him? Will they believe that he is sent on mission and sent by God for their deliverance? Will they believe the message? You see, Moses is in the preparation stage. He is going through this preparation stage. He hasn't even left the confines and comfort of his home. He is processing. He's going through scenarios of what ifs, of what might be's, and what could happen. He is living in his head, projecting into the future, and he is starting to worry and have self-doubt. Have you been there? Often we can do that. Before we even go speak to someone or go to an area or do something that we haven't done before, we begin living it out in our mind, playing it out as it's in the future. And so while we're playing it out into the future, we are taken out of the present, and we're filling the present with worry and doubt. And here we find Moses doing the same thing. Here he is, while doing this, he's having this conversation at the same time with God. He's having a conversation with God as Moses goes through this stage of preparation. And as Moses is going through the stage of preparation, doubt and worry and reservations and insecurity begin to settle in. Moses begins to think the worst, and he has reflection. He's reflecting on his own personal inadequacies. He fears that his own inadequacies might jeopardize the mission. And so he says to the Lord in Exodus chapter 4, verse 10, "Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue." Moses is essentially saying, excuse me, Lord, excuse me from this calling. For you see, I'm not a speaker. I'm not good with words, with putting sentences together. I am not a good orator. Excuse me from this mission. Perhaps when the next one comes around, you can call on me for that one, and perhaps I'll be equipped to serve. Do we give God excuses when we are challenged? When called upon to get out of our comfort zone? When called to go through the process of growth and enter the area of development? Are we good at making excuses? You see, Moses saw his weakness. He had identified his weakness long ago, and now it seems like a glaring default, a defect that is holding him back. Exodus chapter 4, verse 11, the Lord said to Moses, "Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord?" Here we see the Lord, our Creator, saying He made human beings, and that each part of us, each part has a purpose. One of the purposes of the mouth is to speak, the ability to speak. And this was the area that was troubling Moses. It was troubling Moses, an area where Moses felt inadequate. Moses says, "I have never been eloquent. I am slow of speech and tongue." One question that we might ask is, who is Moses comparing himself to? Moses says he's never been eloquent and is slow of speech and tongue. Compared to who? Often we make comparisons. We want to be like someone that we see or hear. We want to be like someone else or imitate someone else. Dear friends, God has made each one of us, and He has made each one of us unique and special. We should not be trying to be like someone else. We should be growing in who God has called us to be. We should be who God has designed and made us to be. And He has made each one of us unique and special. Who gave human beings their mouth? Are you finding fault with the Creator about His creation? And what about disabilities? Some can't hear and some can't speak. And here God identifies them. God identifies them. He says, who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? This might be in our minds. It might all seem cruel, like a cruel act. Each are not having equal footing. All are not made equal with the same advantages and opportunities. It might seem cruel that each are not having equal footing and all aren't made with this equal, with the same advantages and opportunities. But it's not so. Remember the words of the Lord to the Apostle Paul. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. We may see a disability when in reality it is an opportunity for God to infuse His strength. Moses wanted to excuse himself from the mission. He wanted to make excuses instead of going through the process of growth and entering in the area of development. The Lord beckons Moses forward, and He does the same thing with us. He beckons us forward towards growth and development. Exodus chapter 4, verse 12, the Lord says to Moses, now go forward, move forward, now go. I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. And then the Bible tells us that the Lord's anger burned against Moses. And He said, what about your brother, Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. Oh, aren't you glad that through all of our stubbornness, through all of our rebellion, through all of our excuse making, that the Lord doesn't give up on us. The Lord doesn't give up on us. He gives us more grace. He supports us more. And He sends help and continues to help us and to teach us. Verse 16, Aaron will speak to the people for you, the Lord says. He will speak to the people for you. And it will be as if he were your mouth, and as if you were God to him. But take the staff in your hand, so you can perform the signs with it. Dear friend, is there anything holding you back from what God has called you to? What is God calling you to? What's He calling you to for in 2023? Do you know? Perhaps there's this area of service that God is calling you to. Perhaps He's wanting you to step out and to be bold and to be more courageous. What is God calling you to in 2023? And is there anything holding you back? Do you have any doubts? Are there any fears? Do you have any reservations? What are some of the areas of weaknesses that God may be calling you to address and for you to strengthen with His help? What will God challenge us to in 2023? What will the process of growth look like and the area of development be for each one of us? Dear friends, let us trust Him, that He will help us and teach us. And all of this is for us to trust Him more, to rely upon Him. Come, every soul by sin oppressed, there's mercy with the Lord, and He will surely give you rest by trusting in His word. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. For Jesus shed His precious blood, rich blessings to bestow. Plunge now into the crimson flood that washes white as snow. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. Yes, Jesus is the truth, the way that leads you into rest. Believe in Him without delay, and you are fully blessed. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. Come then and join this holy band, and on to glory go, to dwell in that one celestial land where joys immortal flow. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. I hope that this message has been a blessing to you, and I hope and pray that you have a blessed rest of your week. And until next time, bye-bye.